Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. We are now in episode 2. We got started in the previous video. We're here in the main menu again because I stupidly forgot to read this lovely bit of text here. I kind of just jumped in. I was very excited, as I'm sure you guys could probably tell, it being a little bit since I had last jumped into the lovely world of Umineko. And, you know, I'm still excited to be back. I'm very excited to see what sort of direction this episode will take us. It already seems to be tackling a different perspective, kind of showing us a view from Shannon's, you know, sort of position as a piece of furniture, if you will. So things will surely be interesting in this episode. I have no idea what sort of direction it can take. My mind is still a little fried from the end of episode 1. But yeah, let's read this and then we'll jump back in. Good morning. It's actually like almost 9 in the evening, so a little off there. The Golden Witch has been waiting impatiently for you. Sorry. Please take your seat opposite her at the table. Have you rested well? No, I'm really fucking tired actually. And deliberated over how you will play? No. No, I talked about this in the previous video. I'm very confused on a lot of things. I have some ideas for some things I'm not ready to fully discuss, and I just have in the back of my head. I may not have been too far off, I'm thinking, with some of the, you know, stupid bullshit that I brought up whenever I was, you know, throwing some predictions around in episode 1. But we'll wait and see. The witch has high expectations of you. I'm so sorry to hear that. And it is determined to come at you right from the opening. Ooh. I too am looking forward to observing your moves. The difficulty level is first rate. The witch plans to make you surrender in an instant. Well, I'm not one for surrendering, I'll tell you that. I'm just one for giving up and crying. You know, I don't know, can that equate to surrender? I wonder. All right, let's truly jump back into things now. The Ushiromiya family conference was a customary event held every October, but relatives sometimes visited at other times. Of course, they didn't just come to drink tea. Or did they? On this day, Ava's family was visiting the head family on Rokkenjima. The 3 members of Krause's family and the 3 members of Ava's family had gathered in the parlor, and were having a friendly chat about recent events. Genji had supposedly told Kinzo of Ava's family's arrival, but he still hadn't come down. True to his nature, I suppose, what we saw in episode 1, he was probably immersed in his research and just couldn't spare the time. This often happened, so the others waited patiently for their fickle father to arrive.
ほう、それは頼もしいじゃないか。お父さんのところでたくさん勉強して。早く手助けができるよう頑張りたまえ。
ありがとうございます。今は父の紹介でたくさんの人生の先輩方に本当に貴重な勉強をさせていただいています。そのいずれも学校では学べないことばかりです。
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Honestly, when you're actually out and about, you know, and you're learning the real world experience right there, like no, you can't get that in school. It is a whole different world.
学校で習うのは国語算数やない。ものを学ぶ姿勢と態度を学ぶんや。その基礎ができて、ようやく生涯をかけた勉強が始まるんやで。ここをな、勘違いしとるやつは、生涯学べん石頭や。
Hey, just like me.
国語算数で満点取れても、会社じゃ役に立たへん。
Honestly, that was kind of me. Like, I was kind of just getting through everything. I didn't really have that, you know, that want to get out there. And that's probably what kind of stumped me. You know, it's one thing to get your degree, to, you know, pass everything and all that. But if you don't have that desire to get out there, then it is really all for naught.
全くその通りだよ。
Basically, I'm the fool. You guys are allowed to laugh at me, by the way. It's okay. I give you full permission.
ジョージもまだまだ半人前や。それを常に忘れんで、勉強に励むんやで。
よしなさいよ、あなた。ジョージはいっつも一生懸命頑張ってるわよ。
Oh, how I just missed this person as I clenched the shit out of my fist.
本当に立派ね。
Oh, and this person too. Honestly, I am so split with Natsuhi because of everything that went down in episode 1. Not only was she framed, but she has been put into such a shitty position from the get-go. And, you know, she tried to do what was right, and that may have been her downfall.
うちのジェシカにも爪の赤を分けてもらいたいわ。
Great to see everybody again is all I'm trying to say.
チェ、まだテストの結果を根に持ってるのかよ。受験勉強は私なりにやってるって。こんな席でまで言うことはねえだろうよ。うせえぜ。
Once people started praising George for his diligence, the conversation usually turned to Jessica, who just hated studying. Oh, I feel that. Jessica made an openly displeased face as though she had already, or that she had known this would happen, excuse me. Me and my attempts at throwing words into sentences.
今日は頭痛が特に答えます。
Yeah, as is tradition.
大丈夫ですか？夏日おばさん、顔色が優れないみたいです。
Also, as is tradition.
ありがとう。
Nothing ever
大丈
changes.
夫です。でも本当に月日が経つのは早いものね。半ズボン姿で浜辺を駆け巡ってずぶ濡れになって帰ってきた日がついこの間のように思います。
Damn, who wouldn't want to do that?
それはジェシカちゃんも同じよね。今じゃお化粧の仕方にだってこだわるレディーなんだから。眉にこだわりがあるのね。
ありがとうございます。誰も気づいてくれなかったんで、自信なくしてたとこです。
A full smile rose to Jessica's face as the results of her own studies were finally appreciated. Ava smiled back in the same way. Then she turned that smile towards Natsuhi.
ダメよ、夏。
あの人はそういうの全然気づかない人なんで。
ジェシカ、母親をあの人呼ばわりとは感心できんね。
Yeah, I mean, she is right there, and she said that person.
謝りなさい。
言葉遣いについては後でよく言って聞かせます。
チェ、お子様は邪魔だってんならそう言ってくれよ。私は席を外させてもらうぜ。ここは空気がよどんでるぜ。
ジェシカ。
Yeah, I feel bad for Jessica. She always seems to get the short end of the stick, and I kind of get it. I mean, her family's right up there, like they're the top branch, and they're trying to have her be like super dignified and everything, which means that her, you know, sense of freedom is very, very restrained. George has, you know, seemingly gotten a lot more of it, gets praise, you know, it's a completely, you know, flipped situation. Jessica was still at the age where tests and entrance exams are pretty nerve-wracking. Recently, she clashed often with her mother, who was enthusiastic about her education.
失礼いたします。
Oh, hello. Jessica, who was trying to leave the parlor in a bad mood, bumped into Shannon, who was pushing a serving cart filled with tea.
あ、シャノン。私の分のお茶はいらないぜ。私は庭でもほっつき歩いてくる。お嬢様？
シャノン、お茶が冷めます。
Oh, come the fuck
改
on.
善を急ぎなさい。
失礼しました。
Jesus, man. Give her a break. Shannon hadn't actually done anything wrong, but Natsuhi, who felt like something shameful to herself had been shown, lashed out at her emotionally. This was something that often happened in the Ushiromiya family. But it seemed Shannon wasn't strong-willed enough to just accept it and move on. She shrank back and cowered while serving the tea. She had the unfortunate habit of making more mistakes when she cowered. I think we saw maybe a little bit of that before she, you know, died in episode 1. Her pitiful appearance ruined the peaceful atmosphere that had existed a moment before. It wasn't really Shannon's fault, but she thought she might be the source and felt a pressure on her chest. Her shaking fingers made the utensils clang, and you couldn't have called it graceful, not even just to be polite. The more pitiful she appeared, the greater the silence grew. The more irritated Natsuhi looked, and the more Shannon cowered. Shannon's thin neck felt like it was being suffocated and choked by the reaper known as stress. Oh, I've been there. At that time, George spoke brightly, blowing away the stiff atmosphere.
これは いい香りだね。何の紅茶かな？
Yeah, we just need some noise, honestly.
お世話になっている社長さんに紅茶の詳しい人がいまして、講釈を聞いているうちに少しだけわかるようになりました。
I swear, having knowledge on like very specific and just weird things is just, you know, such an oddity for, I guess, a rich family such as this. Oh, you know your teas as well as, you know, learning business experience? Oh, my boy, you are doing great. Like, to me personally, that just seems odd. But then again, you know, I'm in a completely different circumstance, and I also hate tea. So, you know, I don't know what I'm getting at. Hey, yo, wait, hold on a fucking moment. Now that I'm actually reading, I've seen that name before. Okay, so I did get a comment in the previous video. I'm reading the comments. And I also was just like, you know, seeing what people say in response to, you know, is there like a, you know, not a clash, but like some sort of like crossover between Higurashi and Umineko, and it doesn't seem to be the case. They are their own separate titles, and you can go through each individually, so you don't need Higurashi knowledge whatsoever for Umineko. It's not going to change anything, but, you know, just knowledge of, you know, either or as you get into one or the other is cool. You know, I'm sure there's a lot that you can take with you into whichever you're jumping into in the When They Cry series. But I think the goal here is to remember this is its own story, and we got to keep it that way. And we're just going to see references here and there, and maybe some little connections. But beyond that, there's nothing else. Or is there? I don't know. Personally, I'm not going to be looking for it. I'm not going to be like, all right, where's the fucking, you know, where's the disease? Where's the shit? You know, like, no. I'm going to focus on the matter at hand here, which is tea. But that was kind of interesting. That's all I'm trying to, you know, put you know, actually bring to attention here.
その人にちなんでつけた名前だそうだよ。ちなみに、この特徴的な匂いは茶葉のものではなくて、ベルガモットというみかんの親戚にあたる果物でつけたものなんだって。
そうなの。初めて知りました。そういう知識を持っていると、紅茶もより美味しくいただけますね。
Damn, George getting on everybody's good side here today.
嗜好品はロマンをたしなむもんやで。こういううんちくが味わいを深めるんや。
薬の脳書きと同じよね。夏日姉さんも愛用してる頭痛薬の説明書。今度はじっくり読んでから飲んでみなさいよ。
Damn, I just really wish Ava wouldn't ever talk. That'd be so great and would probably benefit a lot of things here.
それはいい。
ぜひミルクティーにして飲んでみるといいよ。
はい。ありがとうございます。
You know, now that I think about it, and I didn't really think about it because for like half of episode 1, Shannon was dead. You know, she is a bit of a cute character. We don't know much about her. There's a lot of characters. You know, I would say all of them. We really just don't know a whole lot about, you know, below the surface. But I strongly believe here in episode 2, we're really going to be, you know, putting our feet in the water, and we're really going to, you know, learn a whole lot more with these characters, especially one that is just referred to as furniture. George gave her a small wink because, you know, George is a Chad, and Shannon finally realized that George had kind-heartedly swept aside the tense atmosphere in the room, and he had done it for the sake of Shannon herself, a cowering servant. The Ushiromiya family did not pamper their servants. Any display of awkwardness would be harshly punished, so it was rare for them to be given a helping hand like this. Thanks to George's kindness, however, Shannon has managed to regain control of herself and finished serving tea without further incident. As long as she stayed calm, she could carry out her work elegantly and flawlessly. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and its elegant scent filled the room, the atmosphere had completely returned to its former peaceful mood, and everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but it didn't look like she would get the chance. So she decided to at least thank him inside her heart, praying to God that George would hear it as she pushed the serving cart away. I mean, at some point they're going to be, together in private, I'm sure. And they can work things out
ジョ
there.
ージ兄さんは昔からそういう時には助け舟を出してくれるんだよ。話題をさらりと変えてくれるというかさ。
Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting into a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time here.
思い返せば、こういう助けられ方をしたのは今回が初めてじゃない気がします。
Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he would always naturally smooth things over and restore harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves, and if a guest lends them a hand, well, they'll lose face.
そういう空気を読むのが得意なんだろうぜ。ま、ジョージ兄さんの美学なんだろうよ。あの人、妙に気ざったらしいところあるからな。
そんなことありません。とっても素敵な方だと思います。
Oh, yeah?
ひょっとしてシャノン、ジョージ兄さんに惚れた？
For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slightly forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention.
そういうことはないかと。
I think Jessica was the first one to really say something whenever we were in episode 1, and George went to, do whatever it was that he was, saying that he would wanted to do, but, no, I think he was wanting to look for Shannon specifically or whatever. Jessica picked up on it, and then Battler picked up on it, and then Michael SK picked up on it.
そういや、ジョージ兄さんってあまり浮いた話を聞いたことないし、あれ？確か家庭的な子がタイプだとか前に聞いたかな。そりゃいいぜ、シャノンぴったりじゃん。
It does?
互いに男女であることを意識しないナチュラルな関係ってのは一度意識し始めるとトントン拍子らしいぜ。
Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story, and she was always getting excited talking about that kind of thing with her friends. She was very quick to pick up on love stories like this. So this wasn't the first time that Shannon had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly was the first time that she had started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, while George was an honored guest and a member of the Ushiromiya family. Until now, she assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible. So, she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seeming to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like that, she'd have no chance of keeping her cool. They saw George come out from the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he had seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try to regain her ordinary composure before George had reached them.
おじいさまがやっと降りてきたよ。
Oh wow, that's a surprise.
あとは大人たちの話になるからって追い出されてね。
そりゃ抜け出して正解だよ。
No, I agree.
じいさまの顔を拝むくらいなら疫病神にキスした方がマシだぜ。
そんな言い方は悪いよ。ただ、おじいさまは僕らのことを疫病神だと思っているかもしれないね。何しろ、事業用にお金を借りたいという話でやってきたんだから。
Oh, lovely. That's right, this wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Ava's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the head family. Kinzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children, and of course they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their businesses with the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached, and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were on the offensive. Kinzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. So Rokkenjima would sometimes play host to this spectacle, where relatives visited and described their businesses to Kinzo. It always did seem like, he wanted people to increase, the wealth, not just take it and just live off of it. No, like do something. Everybody has their own business ventures that they've been trying to tackle. I think Kraus, what his goal here was to turn this place into a resort of some sort, and as ambitious and it could probably work out to some degree. As that all sounds, that is a lot of money to have to put in, and then nothing ever came out of it. So that stinks. And I don't really remember what Hideyoshi had going on. I think it was in regards to restaurants or some shit. And things aren't working out there, and they wanted to push Hideyoshi out. Yeah, that's a rough one. I don't remember what the other two had for businesses, but it is cool that everybody kind of had their own path, and they're trying to make it work in order to, grow the wealth. To the parents, these meetings burden them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money. But to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rokkenjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guest, such as George, like this, well, it immediately cured the bad mood that she had gotten from the fight with her mother.
うちも全くケチくせえぜ。金なんて余ってるんだろうから、気前よく貸してやりゃいいのによ。
Well, then you're kind of showing a weak side.
うちの親父もじいさまも、どうせねちっこくもったいぶってんだろうぜ。
お金を貸すとき、慎重になるのは当然のことだよ。もちろんうちの父さんも、借り入れた分で事業を拡大し、しっかり返却できるプランを持って訪れてる。あとは、プレゼンテーション次第ってところだろうね。
It is cool that the idea of getting a loan here is not if you're struggling, but you're doing okay, but you want to go further. And you don't want to have to dip into whatever funds you have, or maybe you just literally can't. You need more in order to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's all about, again, growing the business, growing the wealth.
本当は脇で見させてもらって勉強したいんだけど、母さんに追い出されちゃったんだよ。ちょっと残念かな。
I've been, somewhat exposed to business loans. It's a very weird thing. It's definitely way beyond like an ordinary loan, like, something that somebody would get for a car. I know for a house, that's actually a pretty sizable one, or maybe a personal loan. Now, a business loan, it can be crazy.
親方様はクラウス様やエヴァ様のことを今でも子供の頃と全く変わらないように叱られるようです。そんな姿を息子のジョージ様にきっと見せたくないのでしょう。
Damn, now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm actually really focusing, again, still tired. I still gotta make an adjustment here, either with the game or with my display through good old NVIDIA, because it still does that slight flickering, and once you notice it, oh, it's game over. Obviously in the video, it's not a problem. It's, a display thing. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back on a scene familiar to those who worked in the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted haughtily towards his siblings, was still treated like a child by Kinzo. I think that's always going to be that way. Your parents always going to, not necessarily look down on you, but will always interpret you as their child. Shannon herself had often seen Kinzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. It was probably very embarrassing to be coerced like that at his age. Taking care to avoid being present at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working here. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she had messed up at least once in the past.
そうだろうね。それを察して姿を消すのも子供の務めかな。それにしても今年もこの庭園の花は本当に素敵だね。
Yep, all primed and ready for the nasty storm coming in October. Actually, what's the date right now? We don't have one. All right. George stretched as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person, George, could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she had known, nearly all had been classmates during her period of mandatory education. But they had all been young, and none had possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he had been just another guest, but right now she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such thoughts were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head.
どうしたんだよ。
いえ、
Oh, she's having
何でもあ
like
りま
a
せん。
inner conflict and, thoughts and
お
shit.
茶のご用意をしましょうか。先ほどのアールグレイを改めてご用意します。
紅茶の名前覚えてくれたんだね。嬉しいよ。
さっきはお気遣いをありがとうございました。
Shannon was finally able to put her gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, it wouldn't be very long. But Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb.
何のことだい？お礼を言われるような覚えはないけど。
Oh, come on, you. That is, very nice of him, and it is cute, this interaction that Jessica is probably fully witnessing and understanding here. He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know that he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing.
なあ、こういうところ気ざったらしいだろ。
いえ、そんなことは。
Jessica poked fun at Shannon, as the latter remained silent and red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way. Ignorance is bliss, or whatever. The three of them lazily walked around the garden, catching up on recent events. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about recent life on Rokkenjima. And Shannon had talked about her recent work, They kept going on about these trivial things. But it's good to talk, catch up. Doesn't matter what exactly you're talking about. It could be the most trivial bullshit ever, but it's all about talking, catching up, and, getting closer to the person or people that you haven't been able to, be close to for a while. Even when Shannon heard the others talk about deeply interesting things, she never felt any particular interest in the actual content of their stories. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her master's lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her, and would only pretend to listen intently and nod at the right moments. But for some reason, the things George talked about today seemed to catch her interest powerfully. Even things she'd normally ignore felt like they contained a trace of kindness behind the words. For some reason, she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So, she stared fixedly at him. She thought that as far as looks went, this Ushiromiya George was probably about average and didn't stick out in a particular way. Oh, come on. I think he's a pretty good-looking guy and everything. You can tell that he's got some intelligence to him. He's got a pretty good frame. Probably not battler, type, but he's up there, probably. Good sense of style. I mean, look at that fucking tie and everything. He's got that fucking, he's got that fit. That fit is just working for him. But he was diligent, serious, and he had a deep prudence. I was about to say prejudice. Whoa. Which allowed him to understand people's hearts and show concern. But she'd never noticed these things before now. She may not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she hadn't noticed once until now. Shannon, embarrassed by her own obliviousness, blushed. George, perhaps thinking that Shannon would listen intently to his stories, kept talking happily and at length about things that he had done and seen. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon. So she decided that she'd change the conversation to the topic she was sure Shannon was most interested in.
そういやさ、ジョージ兄さん、いい加減に彼女とかはできたわけ？
Oh, we're gonna nonchalantly get that insider information.
なんだい、やぶから棒に。
Normally, that reaction should have been, answer enough. But for some reason, as she was now, Shannon wouldn't be able to understand it unless he said it clearly.
そのジョージ様はお優しいですから、さぞやその表になるだろうと。
Oh, I'm sure he is, to a degree.
いや、その
よせよシャノン、そういう追い詰め方はかえって意地悪だぜ。
私は別に。
嬉しい勘違いをありがとう。残念だけど、特定の一人の女性とはまだご縁がないよ。
You didn't have to include the word still. That just makes it a little bit more depressing, I
見
feel.
ての通り、容姿も波以下だからね。女の子を楽しくさせてあげられるような気の利いた話術もないし。
そんなことないと思います。それに男性の魅力は容姿では測れないところで決まるんじゃないかと思います。だからそのジョージ様はとても魅力的な男性じゃないかと
Damn.
思います。
Just coming right out with it, huh? Again, what a cute bit of interactions that we have here. Shannon was being uncharacteristically verbose. She hardly ever spoke at such length. George seemed fairly pleased to hear someone applaud his charm like this, but he was just a little surprised at this sudden high praise. Jessica, now sure her guess was spot on, appeared to be barely holding back laughter.
ありがとう、シャノンちゃん。僕に魅力を感じてくれるような寛大な女性に早く巡り会いたいね。
Oh, buddy, you're about to bump into one any minute now.
きっと巡り会えると思います。ジョージ様の本当の魅力に気づいている女性は、いえ、大勢いらっしゃると思いますよ。
She probably wanted to say that there was at least one girl very close to him. Shannon avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant.
そうかな。さすがに照れるね。
He had probably never been praised this heavily by a girl before. George's face turned just as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically. Oh, I'm sure she's enjoying this. The most entertainment that she's had on this fucking island.
鬼の首でも取ったみたいだな。こういう話では男は女の子にかなわないね。
Normally, when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say, George is diligent and admirable, and Jessica is lazy and rude. So it's probably unbearable fun for Jessica to have their roles finally reversed. George realized this as well, so he resigned himself to being the one getting teased for once. You know, might as well.
ジョージ兄さんさえいいならさ、シャノンでちょっと練習してみたら？
Guys, I cannot begin to explain how much worse this fucking flickering is getting. Like, it is very distracting. Honestly, I think it might be because of a driver update I did recently. It really was a come and go whenever we were recording, or whenever I was recording back in December and early January for episode 1. I have to assume that is the change that has caused this very, very significant distraction for me. So I really got to see if I can change something before the next recording session.
シャノンを一日退屈させずにデートに連れてくんだよ。どうよ？
そんなお嬢様。
When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red with a poof, and a donut of smoke started to rise from her head. Oh, we're getting into the cartoony effects now, huh?
彼女の貴重な休日を奪うだけじゃない。彼女が本当に思いを寄せる人と二人きりで過ごす聖域に僕が割り込んでしまうことになる。そんな無粋なことはできないね。
思い人とかそういう人はいませんので、そういうお気遣いは、はい、無用なのです。
Shannon's blood had all rushed to her head, and it looked like she, or even she, didn't know what she was babbling about. I never know what I'm babbling about either. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to be finding this hilarious. She couldn't hide her cackling laughter anymore.
そうなのかい？シャノンちゃんみたいな可愛い子が独り身なんて信じられないね。
Oh, here we go.
私、使用人ですから、男の方との縁なんてありませんし、
ってことは、 シャノンも将来素敵な男性を射止めるために交際の練習が必要だってことじゃないのかよ。つまり二人とも互いの思惑は一致するわけだ。なるほど、こりゃいいぜ。
Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. By now, even George was hanging his head and turning red.
ジョージ、さっきから呼んでるわよ。
Oh, sorry there, Ava. We've had our little, attempts of connecting some love dots going on
聞
here.
こえないの？
When Ava appeared in what was already an embarrassing situation, both of them got even more flustered. Jessica watched and laughed loudly.
母さん、ごめんよ。話が込み入っちゃっててね。
Oh, quite engrossed you were.
気づかなかっ
Jesus.
た。
本当にみんな若いんだから。
Ah, come on now.
それで何母さん、用があって声をかけたんじゃないの？
お父さんたちの話が終わったわ。おじいさまにあなたの話をするからいらっしゃい。
Oh.
僕の話？何の話かな？
今みんなでしてたのと同じ話よ。ほら、例の話。
Oh, she heard.
ああ、別におじいさまに話すようなことじゃないんじゃないかな。
何の話だよ。まさかジョージ兄さん誰かと結婚するの？
それはおめでとうございます。
Man, they really jumped on that one.
違うよ。特定の女性はいないってさっき言ったじゃないか。
威張ることじゃないでしょ。まったく。
Ava smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated.
わかった。ジョージ兄さんあれでしょ。お見合いだ。
お見合いですか？
まあね。
Surely, as a man, George wanted to find a partner by himself and bring her home with him. So it seemed he thought it a bit pathetic to meet his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents.
お見合いというのはもっと年齢が成熟してからするものじゃないのかな。僕はまだ一人前になったって自覚すらないというのに。
もちろん、即結納即結婚なんて焦る気は全然ないのよ。親睦を深めて、年齢的にもう少し落ち着いてから籍を入れる形でも問題ないの。
Yeah, what an easy step 1 and 2. Judging by Ava's forceful attitude and George's non-committal one, the others could catch a glimpse of the story behind this marriage meeting. They didn't know who George was supposed to be meeting, but it was surely someone who would profit Ava's family in a business sense. It's usually how it goes. The very fact that they'd be satisfied with a mere engagement to deepen the relationship between the two families, rather than an immediate marriage, made it feel almost like a political maneuver. There we
結
go.
婚はね、好きになってからするものじゃないの。してから慣れることよ。感情だけで結婚すると必ず後悔する。身元のしっかりした人を生涯の伴侶に選んで、それから愛情を築いていくのも決して間違ったことではないの。
Now, you see, me as a just regular Joe Schmo, there's a fucking lot wrong with that. I think we can all agree that that is not the proper way of going about it, but again, these characters live in a completely different world. Arranged marriages are also something, still very common in a few areas in the world and very specific circumstances, such as where politics and money are such factors.
だからって好きでもない相手と結婚してもいいって論法にはならないと思うけどな。
Again, how I always see it is, marriage, I mean, it's more than this, but it is just a linkage, a piece of paper, taxes, shit along those lines. But we've, added on a little bit more impactful meanings to marriage. And that is, you actually care about the person because that's somebody that you have such a linkage. You are literally connecting families.
あなたは私の自慢の一人息子よ。どこへ出しても恥ずかしくないくらい立派に成長してくれたわ。
Yeah, definitely 100% on that one.
バトラ君は籍を抜け、あなたが今やお父様の血を引く唯一の男孫。あなたにふさわしい相手は 慎重に選ばなくてはならない。
Wait, he full on left the register? I thought he just, left living at home and went to, live with some other family members or, whoever it was that he went to go live with for like 6 years. I didn't think he full on like fucking ditched the family. As everyone related to the Ushiromiya family knew, Ava adored George immensely. Well, yeah, I mean, the parent, son, anyways. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. She had been strict with him and had raised him into a wonderful boy who wouldn't betray her expectations. Yet. And that was why she treasured him so.
あなたの相手は決して母さんたちの損得で決めてなんかいないわ。
Uh-huh.
あなたにふさわしい本当に素晴らしい女性に母さんが合わせてあげる。今はあなたの中にある青臭い若さがそれを疎むかもしれない。でもこれだけは母さんの言うことを聞きなさい。私があなたのためを思わなかったことが一度でもある？
Well, you eventually will. Trust me, I've seen some shit. I have seen some shit.
今はそれで結構よ。さあ行きましょう。お父様を待たせてるわよ。急いで屋敷に行きなさい。
じゃあごめんね二人、また後で。
George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion.
じゃあおばさんも行くわね。楽しい話を打ち切っちゃってごめんね、ジェシカちゃん、シャノンちゃん。
いえ気にしないでください。じゃあシャノン、私たちは行こうぜ。
はい。
大丈夫よ。ジェシカちゃんだってきっとそのうち素敵な出会いがあるわよ。
Oh, I'm certain.
ジェシカちゃんにふさわしい。
私と同程度ってことは成績の悪い男かな。
Oh, careful, Jessica. You don't want your mother hearing that language.
なんだかうぜえぜ。
もちろんシャノンちゃんにもね、あなたにふさわしい素敵な男性がきっと現れるわよ。
Oh, definite 100% on that one.
ありがとうございます。
As Ava giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth as though she was trying to tell her a secret. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What was it?
使用人風情のあなたに
Oh,
ぴったりの
no.
相手がきっと見つかるわよ。
Oh, man, come
義
on.
務教育に行かせてもらった恩も忘れて身の程を知りなさい。
Oh, fuck.
そんなつもりは。
そんなジョージと無能無資格無教養な使用人風
Jesus
情が
Christ,
釣り合
dude.
うと
What the
本気で
fuck?
思い。
See, I had a feeling that she was going to say something specifically to Shannon, but not this. That just went all the way. Those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water was being poured in there.
私はそんなつもりは。
This was all whispered to Shannon in secret, and with the same smile as before, Jessica, who could only see Ava's expression, did not think it was anything other than Ava telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. When their secret conversation ended, Ava patted Shannon's shoulder as though she was urging her on.
大丈夫よ。あなたにぴったりのお相手がきっと見つかるからね。
What a bitch.
じゃあね、ジェシカちゃん。また後でね。
はい。
Like,
また
honestly.
後で。秀吉おじさんと
I'm
の
sorry,
話
but like, if
その
anybody
時
likes
聞かせて
Ava,
くださいね。
like, I think you are also problematic.
いやよ。
Christ almighty. I mean, Beatrice almighty. Ava laughed loudly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Ava's about knowing her place. Well, that was lovely. That was nice. That's one way of putting it, I suppose. Okay, we will wrap it up here. Truth be told, before the screen turned dark and Ava was like telling Shannon what she said, the flickering actually became so much worse like, it actually became less flickering and more like flashing. It was getting really fucking bad. I was thinking I was going to have to end the session a little earlier, but we persevered. So I'm going to go look into that so we're ready for the next recording session and I don't have to, you know, deal with that problem. And wow, just what a fucking session this was. Ava continues to impress me with how much of a, you know, unlikable person she can be here in this story. Like, there's just no reason for me to ever really give a shit about her character in a positive light. It is insane. So that's fun. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. Cross your fingers for whatever romantic future is in everybody's futures here, or what they get to look forward to. I guess you could say. Obviously, we see what George and Shannon decide to go for. Yeehaw, I suppose, on that one. Anyways, yes. See you guys in the next one, hopefully with less flickering on my end. Also, it's Valentine's Day. What a fantastic coincidental day to record this video. Anyways, yes, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.